The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
On this week's CourtTV podcast, we have a CourtTV exclusive, my in-depth interview with the Tiger King, Joe Exotic, a man who captured the world's attention with the hit Netflix docuseries about his life and his legal troubles. There was a major ruling in Joe's case last week, and I'll get Joe's thoughts on it, as well as get an update on what his life is like in prison.
This is the CourtTV podcast with Vinnie Politan.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us here on the CourtTV podcast. And if you were like me during the initial COVID shutdown, it was supposed to be 2 weeks. We know it ended up being a little bit longer, right? But during that time, America was locked in and locked down. And many of us were watching some series and doing some binging. And one of the programs that really just captured the fascination of so many of us was Tiger King. And it was one of the most bizarre, outrageous, outlandish series that I've ever seen, with this character, Joe Exotic, who's in the middle of it. And it was bizarre, but we all watched it. And it was chronicling who he is, his life as this zookeeper, but it also was tracking his legal troubles, because when the whole series wraps up, while we were all wildly entertained, he went to trial in federal court and was convicted of attempted murder and about 19 offenses involving the tigers that he had in his zoo. And he was sentenced to like 22 years in prison, and he appealed that sentence and won, so he was resentenced, and that just happened. And the judge reduced it about a year to a year and a half. So he got a little bit of a lighter sentence, but he's still locked behind bars and desperately trying to get out. Well, Joe Exotic called me in my office, and we recorded the whole thing. Yes, I knew the phone call was coming, but we recorded the whole thing. It's a fascinating discussion as I talked to Joe Exotic about life behind bars and his legal issues. So let's take a listen to that phone call that I got from Joe Exotic behind bars.
Hi, is Vinny there?
Yeah, this is Vinny. Joe, how are you?
Yes, sir. Not too bad.
Let me ask you first. Health-wise, that's a big issue. Are you dying right now of cancer? Are you battling cancer? What exactly is your health situation, Joe?
Well, I have CVID, which is the big kicker. It's common variable immune disease, and I don't have an immune system. And then I'm battling hemoglobin anemia on top of that. So every 4 weeks I have to get blood. And now I'm diagnosed with prostate cancer, and they're wanting to do 45 straight days of radiation and or surgery. And I'll never make surgery. I actually have been on the phone and talked to Dr. Drew, the celebrity.
I know Drew.
And he recommended that I don't do anything because my system can't handle any of it. And see, when I got my biopsy done in Fort Worth at the hospital there, because of my CVID, I got so septic just from a biopsy that the marshals had to call for an ambulance at the prison and have me admitted to the hospital for IV antibiotics and stuff.
So let me ask you, based upon, was that your real reason that you believe that you should be released from prison now, is because of almost out of mercy because of the state of your health?
Well, no, I mean, I've been to the hospital 43 times in 3 years. It's pretty bad, and I'm pretty skinny, and I think I look pretty bad. But I don't want out just because I'm sick. I want out because I'm innocent too.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what happened. You were able to go back to court to be resentenced, and not much of a reduction. Was it a reduction of 1 year?
No.
So
Yeah.
Your reaction to what happened in court?
Well, I mean, the lawyers prepared me for it because we knew that they were out to get me.
When you say they, who's they? Who's they?
The assistant U.S. attorney and the Federal Wildlife Service agent is just hell-bent on keeping me in prison. But, they said that it was a formality that had to happen before we could file for a new trial or a dismissal or, a Rule 2255, which is ineffective assistance of counsel. And my team of lawyers, I've got a damn good team of lawyers right now. John Phillips and Molly Palmer and Amy Hanna and everybody out of Oklahoma. And
John and Molly, I know very, very well through the years. They've been on my programs countless times. I know the work they do. So let me ask you this. Because this is people who've obviously gotten to know you by watching the series and seeing you on Netflix. Why do you think that you're in prison and Carol Baskin is out roaming free?
Okay, well, I can tell you why, and it's pretty obvious. Okay, I'm basically a political prisoner to the Big Cat Safety Act. That's why Carol had me put in prison. When President Trump was ready to leave office, she even went public and said, "I'll help Joe get a pardon if he would support the Big Cat Safety Act," and rat on all of his friends. Okay, so in 2019, when I was facing trials, she was fearful for her life, to get me in prison. Once I'm in prison, then she's not scared of me anymore and wants me to get a pardon by extorting me and blackmailing me if I would support the Big Cat Safety Act. And then Friday in court again because I won't support the Big Cat Safety Act because it's truly the worst thing that can happen for big cats in America. Now I'm the scariest thing on the planet to her again.
So
seriously, I'm in prison. I've got sentenced for 21 years, dying. So you can't pet a baby tiger in America.
Well, you look at the charges. The charges were attempted murder. I spoke with one of the jurors from that trial, and she told me that it was actually pretty easy for them to come to the conclusion that you were guilty of that.
I mean, it was pretty easy because I didn't have a defense. The public defenders that I had done nothing, and all it was one-sided. I had no witnesses whatsoever, and now that we have the evidence to back up what I was trying to say, they'll never pull this off on another trial. Sure, the first trial, I can see what the jury thought because they made me look horrible. I mean, they had Alan Glover up there. I paid him to go cut her head off and all of this stuff. And boy, they had him wound up and acted good. And then Lauren Lowe got up there and lied. Even Carol lied, instead of saying when she was talking about the copyright lawsuit, instead of saying the truth about she filed a copyright lawsuit about a picture of her staff killing innocent rabbits. She turned it into, I cut her head off and put it on vulgar bodies. And every time I tried to defend myself, the judge shut me down.
When you say tried to defend yourself, were you on the witness stand trying to defend yourself, or were you at counsel table trying to defend yourself?
I went on the stand for a whole day, a full day.
And you're saying you weren't allowed to testify to what you wanted to say?
Every time I wanted to say something to defend myself and tell the story, the prosecutors would object and they would go to the bench and they would have sidebar. And every time they would say, you can't respond to that question, or you can't talk about that. You need to move on. So in the trial, I didn't get to talk about why me and Carol had issues because Don Lewis is missing, why Carol stalked me, hired people to follow me. I couldn't talk about none of that. And then when James Garrison got on the stand, I couldn't talk about, his credit card fraud, his identity theft, the sex trafficking with him and Jeff Lowe. I couldn't talk about nothing to defend myself. And they all sat up there and looked like angels and made me look like this crazy murderer.
Wasn't one of the witnesses an undercover FBI agent that you tried to hire to commit the murder?
I didn't try and hire him. Okay? James Garrison, it took him a year to even find me, to set me down at the zoo and bring him up there. And they tried to get me to make a deal to give them $10,000, and my excuse was I was broke. They said, "Hey, we'll do it for $5,000." No, I'm still broke. Okay, I can't come up with any money. Then they tried to get me to go to Walmart and buy Go phones. Nope, I didn't do that. And I wasn't doing that. Then they tried to get me to buy a gun in Oklahoma. Nope, I didn't do that, and I wouldn't do that. Then they tried to give me give them Carol's address even. Okay. Hello, all I got to do is Google that. But instead of me saying something, I said, you got to get that from Jeff Lowe. Because I wanted nothing to do with it. There was these two huge, fat, ugly people in my office blocking me from the door to get out of my office. And every time I changed the subject, James Garrison would bring it back up to, hey, what do you think about murdering Carol? It was crazy. There was not.
Well, let me ask you this, Joe. Let me ask you this. If you had a time machine and you could go back in time, what would you do differently? What would you change in your life? Whether it's, what your relationship or this back and forth with Carol Baskin, the way you treated the big cats. I mean, because you're also convicted of killing these tigers.
Okay. I'm accused and convicted of taking an endangered species without a permit. Okay, it has nothing to do with how I put them to sleep. It has nothing to do with animal abuse or animal cruelty. They charged me with taking an endangered species without a permit, and they were my tigers. Okay, and first of all, and they're crossbred mutts. They're not even an endangered species, and I had a federal license by the United States Department of Agriculture with protocols signed off by them and my veterinarian that gunshot was an accepted form of euthanization.
So is there anything you would, but looking back on the way that things have turned out for you, right? Obviously, I would you rather be famous or free?
Would I rather be what?
Famous, like you are right now, or free like you aren't right now?
And to finish answering the other question, what would I do different? I would never have built a zoo, because being a target of the animal rights people is crazy, absurd. You can't do anything right, okay? Carol Baskins open to the public. She exploits tigers for money. She operates them on them for to pull on heartstrings on the internet for donations. Joe had tigers. He was open to the public. He didn't operate them or do anything like that, but he did breed them and let you play with baby tigers. Okay, so what was the difference? Hey, what's the difference between me and PETA? PETA euthanizes nearly every animal they get a hold of. Okay, it's just they have money to pick on me and I don't have money to pick back. Okay, so I would never have opened a zoo, and if I get out of here, I will never have another exotic animal in my life. Okay, then you ask me, would I rather be famous or be free? I would rather be free, because being famous has done nothing but destroy my life.
Carol Baskin, as you mentioned, last time you were in court, mentioned that she's still fearful, but not just of you. She also says she's fearful of some of your fans. Do you have a message for your fans relative to Carol Baskin? Because she seems to believe that she may be in danger from people who believe in you.
The reason why she feels that way, and the reason why she's an expert of that, is because for 20-something years, she has had me on her 911 animal abuse website, as her most wanted for animal abuse because I play with baby tigers and let people play with baby tigers. And between her and PETA, they have had me on videos and websites and everything calling me an animal abuser, only because I let people touch animals. Okay? So what has happened to Joe? Joe's had his recording studio blow up. Joe has had people come to the park and actually threaten to kill John Rinke, my manager, to let all the animals out. It is crazy what people that don't take their medication do, okay? And she's an expert at making people do that to people she doesn't like. So where did I ever say anything on the internet that threatened Carol Baskin other than calling her a bitch?
Before we run out of time, though, do you have a message for anyone out there that may garner some ill will towards Carol Baskin? And if it's a message coming from you, it'll be more powerful.
You know,
you don't want harm coming to Carol Baskin, do you?
No. I mean, and I can call you right back for another 15 minutes if you want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, let me do that before we get into that. I'll call you right now, right back.
And we'll be back with more of my interview with Joe Exotic when he calls me back on the other side.
He said, if you leave, I am going to kill you.
The killer, you know,
They were the perfect family.
but never suspected.
I'll find you, one way or the other.
Someone They Knew with Tamron Hall. Premiering Sunday, March 6th, only on CourtTV.
Joe, are you back with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Where were we?
We were. What would I tell my fans about Carol or whatever?
Yeah, well, she's in fear of her safety, and I think if you make a statement, then maybe we could subside that fear a little bit by you saying something that would not put her in danger, right?
Okay. Well, absolutely. And in let's see, what the last nearly 20 years, for me, she's never been in danger. Okay, she sued me. We've been to court. I've been to her place twice. Flew over it with a helicopter. Saw her at conventions. I testified against her Big Cat Safety Act with her in Ohio. She's never.
But at this point, Joe, I know you've been locked up, but you don't realize there are millions and millions of people who have watched the show, and some of them really love you and really hate her. But we don't want her to be in danger, correct?
We don't want her to be in danger.
So can you say something to the fans, to your fans that might be thinking to bring her danger? I mean, that's one of the things she said in court, wasn't it? That she was afraid potentially of some of your fans.
Well,
I just want everyone to be safe.
I want there's so much I want to say. I want none of my fans or none of my supporters, or even if they're not my supporters and they just hate Carol Baskin, there's no reason for anybody to hurt anybody. Okay, I forgive everyone. Do I forget? Absolutely not. But there's no reason for anybody to keep making her more famous than she is now, because she runs the largest scams there are. No, do not ever threaten to hurt Carol Baskin for two reasons. Because A, she's crazy and she's mental and she just can't help herself. And two is you don't want to screw up your life just by hurting somebody that's crazy. All right, it's just not worth it.
And Joe, and you don't want another human being harmed, right?
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, but we don't want to keep making her rich either, because that's her motive. Okay, she'll do anything, say anything for money. Okay, whether it's exploiting animals or exploiting even herself. For Christ's sake, you know, she was on Dancing with the Stars and looked like an idiot. Then she comes out as bisexual and looks like an idiot. And then she comes out wanting to give me a pardon and looks like an idiot. Now she's back to being scared and looking like an idiot. Quit giving her money. Quit following her videos. Just help me let Carol Baskin find another reason to live in this world other than Joe Exotic. Okay, that's all I ask is quit making her popular.
All right, let me ask you about you. And when you take a moment here, and I know you're wrapped up in your appeal, we're going to get even more information from your attorneys who will be on my show. Let me ask you about your life. How would you describe your life? Have you lived out any dreams? Was it a great life? Was it a good life? And I'm not that you're dead, Joe, but I'm just up until this point. How do you look at the life that you have lived?
Okay, and I tried to put that in a book, and they even edited my book, okay, and I didn't even get to tell my story in my own book. And my life, it started out as a very young child of being sexually abused, to going through attempted suicide as a teenager and a young adult trying to face the fact of being gay. I was a paramedic and an emergency medical technician at the age of 17. I was a police chief at the age of 19. I've worked in funeral homes. I've worked in emergency rooms. I've helped animals. I've helped sick people. I've helped homeless people. I've lived a full life. Okay, despite the downfalls, I can never complain about my life. I've made music videos. I've done television shows. I've done what 10 people can't do. It's crazy. Okay, and I wouldn't trade any of it for anything, because it made me who I am.
Now, any message that you have for the jurors who convicted you, the prosecutors who are going after you, to people who think that you are not a good person, that you are someone that abused these animals, that killed these tigers, do you have a message for them, Joe?
For my jurors, I know what they did, and they probably felt at the time that they'd done their job. Now I hope that they see the evidence coming out and how corrupt and crooked all of this went down, and the backstabbing between the government witnesses now, and coming up and admitting to perjury. I mean, Alan Glover is facing prison for admitting to the FBI that he lied to the grand jury, he lied to my jury. And then to go one step further and admit to plotting to murder me with Jeff Lowe is pretty outrageous. So, do I fault them for me being in prison? No. Okay. Then the next jury, I hope they take a little bit longer to look at all the evidence before they convict me or any other jury that sits on a jury. Before you take a person's life, you need to really look at the characters and how well the courtroom has been orchestrated and the agenda, because you're taking people's lives. You think I took 5 tigers' lives? You took my life. Okay? Think about that. I euthanized 5 tigers that were crippled and sick and time to go. Okay? You took my life for the rest of my life just because you believed the orchestrated movie that was going on in a federal courtroom. How
about for you? Is there anything you need to change for you to make yourself a better person? You ever thought about it that way?
This has made me a better person, because I see people in prison that really don't deserve to be in prison. What we do to people and human beings is outrageous. I had animals in cages. Now I know exactly how my animals feel. I should have made my employees and myself go sit in a cage for an entire day and see just how much they waited on me and how much I enjoyed my life, because it's worse in prison. I'm in a cell with no TV, no radio, no nothing. It's just 4 walls, and it drives you mentally crazy. And when I get out of here, because I will get out of here, when I get out of here, I'm going to be the biggest advocate for animals in cages. I don't care if it's a hamster or a bed of fish in a bowl, okay? If it can think, or it can possibly even have a soul, it does not belong in a cage, Vinny, at all, okay? And that's what's made me a better person. And when I get out of here, I'm going to advocate for innocent people that are in prison, animals that are in cages, and I have a platform to make a difference, because Slavery is alive. It's in prison. Okay, there's so many people in prison for such long sentences that didn't even do anything. All right, but they're working for $5.25 a month, and the majority of them are poor people of color that can't afford a defense, or poor people that are white that can't afford a defense. When I came to prison, I was bankrupt. Okay, I couldn't afford a defense. Now you look me up on the internet, my net worth is supposedly $15 million overnight.
Where are you keeping the money, Joe?
Yeah, I would like to know that. I think my ex-husband spent it all. But,
so what is your day-to-day like? What is your day-to-day like, and do you get visited by anyone? Are there visits where you're being held right now?
I've been to 4 federal prisons so far and 3 county holdovers, and I have never. It's COVID. You can't
even visit during COVID. That's right. That's over. So it's just so
my day consists of 24 hours in a room
by yourself.
A concrete room by myself. Absolutely.
So what is the bottom line to your life right now? Like, what is the focus 1,000% on this appeal? Is that where your focus is, or is your focus on surviving each day?
And this is being 100% honest with you, man. My focus is on my lawyers getting me a new trial right now, and the other focus is laying in there asking God to make my heart stop.
Really?
Really?
Are you on suicide watch?
No. Hey,
you wouldn't take your life, Joe, would you? You're just asking for God to do it.
I have 2 husbands, mom and dad, and my brother to see in heaven, and I was raised Catholic, that if you kill yourself, you're not going to heaven. That's why my dad never killed himself after my brother died. He begged God to die every day, and finally he's there with my brother. And it's the same way. Rather than live 21 years and here being treated less than an animal in a zoo in America is allowed to be treated, I would rather God stop my heart.
For someone who never met you, how would you describe yourself? Who are you?
It's just like almost every letter that I get, and I get a ton of letters. I'm unapologetic. I'm honest. I'm sincere. I'm caring. I speak my mind, and I help anybody. In prison, when I was in Fort Worth, I just transferred to North Carolina to the hospital. But the time that I was in Fort Worth, Joe Exotic ran a soup kitchen in prison for people that don't have anybody on the outside to buy them commissary. So I cooked twice a day for the people that had no stuff, just like I did for Thanksgiving and Christmas out in the free world, except I did it every day in here.
Do they know who you are?
Everybody knows who I am.
And does that help you or hurt you behind bars?
In prison and jail, it helps me because hey, look, I have a cell in North Carolina next to the Unabomber. Okay, that's where I'm kept, and it doesn't matter who I meet. A gang member, a cartel member, or whatever. Man, I get along with everybody because of who I am, and that's not just because I'm famous, but it's because who I am as a person, and how I conduct myself in here. And every person says, Joe, you're not a criminal, man. You don't belong in here. Every inmate says, Joe, you do not belong in here. You're not a criminal.
If you're not successful, I know you don't like to think about it, but I've covered a lot of cases many years, and sometimes people don't get a new trial, and sometimes the jury doesn't get a second chance to look at your evidence. If the rest of your life is behind bars, can you be productive living the life right now locked up?
First of all, I'll never survive 21 years. Okay, I'm next month I turn 59. What is the real odds of me living in prison for 21 years? It's not. Okay, so I cannot be productive in here. You're absolutely right. You know, I from here, I managed to be able to get engaged to be married. So, you know,
To who?
huh?
To who?
I'm not going to put that target on his back right now, because it's a horrible target. But, you know, I can survive anywhere. Okay, is it going to be fun? No. Is it going to be fabulous? No. You know, right now, I don't even like who I am on the outside in the world because everybody is making money on me but me.
We have one minute left. Joe, I'm going to be speaking with your lawyers. Any message for them? I know you talk to them all the time, but anything you can get to them?
Guys, you have uncovered more evidence. It is incredible. I have 100% faith. Molly Palmer made the comment the other day that she is taking this all the way to Supreme Court, and I believe she will. And I believe that John and Philip and Amy and Blake and everybody else will get me out of here. So I love you. You're badass. I've got the most amazing team I could ask for. Thank you.
Joe, I don't know if you're busy today or not, but thanks so much for giving us the call and giving us a little bit of insight into your world. There's a lot of people interested, and we'll continue to cover your legal battle that you're undergoing, and we'll talk to you later.
Unbelievable. What an afternoon in my office. It was fascinating, really. Now, he spoke a lot about this appeal, this federal appeal that he has. I've also spoken to members of his legal team about this appeal. So when we come back, I'll break down what his chances are and how likely it is that Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, will ever get a new trial.
Follow CourtTV live over the air, uninterrupted. If you're watching television with an antenna, just rescan your channels now to add CourtTV. And go to CourtTV.com to see the exact channel position and more ways to watch CourtTV in your area.
So here's the deal. Once you've been convicted of a crime, winning an appeal is extremely difficult. I mean, extremely difficult, because you've been convicted of a crime, you are a criminal, you are a felon, and now you've got to convince some appellate judges to give you another trial, to give you another chance, that you, the felon, were wronged. So just human nature alone, I think, makes it difficult for many appellate judges to overturn convictions. Even if they lean one way or the other, it doesn't matter. A human nature is, well, this person committed a crime. I don't want to be the one setting them free, right? Despite that, criminal appeals still happen, and once in a while they are successful. Now, for a criminal appeal to be successful, there's several ways it can happen. The best chance that criminal defendants have is newly uncovered evidence that didn't exist at the time of the trial, that they want to bring forth, and the defense believes if a jury or a judge heard this evidence, they very well could have come to a different conclusion at trial. In some cases, it might be enough to overturn the conviction completely and force prosecutors to just dismiss the charges. Those are cases like where there's DNA that is found, if it's that type of case, DNA of the real killer as opposed to the person who got convicted. Those cases are rare, but they do happen. We've seen them many times with the Innocence Project. Now, there's other types of evidence that can be uncovered. And in my discussions with the legal team for Joe Exotic, they believe they have some new evidence. And this evidence consists of some newly uncovered recorded conversations with key witnesses against Joe Exotic at trial. So if they just received this information and it legitimately is new, not that they're first set of attorneys had it but decided not to use it. But if they legitimately newly discovered this, and in fact, there's evidence in there that would make a jury see the case completely differently, the judges may very well give Joe Exotic a new trial. Now, the nature and the weight of this evidence is the key. It's the absolute key, but they believe they have that. They also believe that they have witnesses who perjured themselves, and they claim they've got affidavits from some of these witnesses at trial swearing that they perjured themselves. Now, I don't know how reliable someone swearing that I perjured myself is reliable, right? Like, think about it. The person who's filling out an affidavit swearing that I'm telling you the truth now about not telling you the truth when I was under oath the last time. So that's always difficult. We'll see what the court does with that. But you take a look at those two issues to begin with are valid issues and potentially give this defendant, Joe Exotic, a fighting chance at winning his appeal. But when you win your appeal, the only thing you win is a new trial. But here's the twist in this case. In my conversation with John Phillips, who's one of his attorneys, he claims that some of this newly uncovered evidence may demonstrate some misconduct on the part of investigators in all of this. And if that is true, and again, it's a big if, but if that is true, then you've got witnesses who were working for the government who misrepresented things and were not truthful and continue to push forward knowing that they weren't acting in a way that was honest. It's potentially devastating to the government's case. Devastating if this involves lead investigators or prosecutors associated with the case. Now, again, we're going to take a deeper dive on all of this evidence once I get my hands on it myself. But these are the representations being made by the team. So, at first blush, I look at many criminal appeals and say, no chance. No chance. You've got two chances, actually, Slim and none. And look who just walked out the door. That was Slim. But if you've got people lying, you've got misconduct, you've got newly uncovered recordings, you've got witnesses saying that they lied at trial, you put that all together, you may very well have enough for a new trial, and you may have enough to win that new trial or force the government to dismiss those charges. Now, remember, there's two sets of charges here. Some of them are related to the attempted murder of Carol Baskin, his arch nemesis, and others are related to the way he treated and what he was doing with the exotic animals. So he's got to deal with both of those, and we'll see how the evidence impacts both of them. But this is one that I am going to continue to follow and track because it looks like there may very well be some legitimate issues for the appellate court to deal with. But that being said, remember what I first said. The inclination of appellate courts is to find a way to uphold the conviction. So they're not going to tell you that, but that's just from experience and seeing the way these things go. I mean, there are cases where criminal defense attorneys have fallen asleep during the trial and the convictions have been upheld. So there's always a reason, it seems, that appellate courts have to continue to uphold convictions. This one is high profile. There'll be a spotlight on it, so maybe that changes the equation a little bit, but we shall see. I'll continue to follow it, and when there are updates, you'll hear about it on the podcast or on my television show as well, because I am on every night from 8 to 11 on CourtTV. We are a network. We are everywhere. If you want to find us, you can go on the website, go to CourtTV.com, hit the Find Us tab, and you click on your state, and you'll figure out how to get us. We also are in the country, 90% of the country, with digital antennas. So if you got one of those nifty digital antennas, just rescan it and look for CourtTV, and you'll find us. So that's it for this week. I am Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for listening and downloading. Have a great week, and don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of CourtTV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and a